When you think of Paul Reubens and Phil Hartman, you think of two absolute comedic geniuses. Together, they gave us one of the most unforgettable characters and, honestly, one of the most imaginative worlds in TV history. But behind all that laughter, behind the pure, zany joy of Pee Wee Herman, there was this fractured friendship. It's a story of conflict and regret that to this day, fans are still trying to piece together.
So let's just get right to it, because this is the question at the very heart of their story. If you do a quick search online, you'll see fans are still picking apart old interviews, just looking for clues. Did these two guys who built this incredible world together ever actually rebuild their own personal bridge? The answer? Well, it's really, really complicated.
Their story kicks off where so many comedy legends got their start, the Groundlings Theater in LA. This is the place where the Pee Wee Herman character was literally born, and where Phil Hartman, as Captain Carl, became just a totally essential part of that magic. They were a creative powerhouse, no doubt about it. But as Pee Wee's fame just exploded into the stratosphere, their partnership started to show some serious cracks. So what exactly went wrong? Well, it wasn't just one big thing. It was more like a series of grievances that just kind of built up over time. When Hartman left the Playhouse for a huge platform like Saturday Night Live, that naturally created some distance. Then there was friction during the making of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Hartman apparently really wanted a much bigger part, the role of Mickey, the escaped convict, but he only ended up with a small cameo. And on top of all of that, you had these persistent whispers about money and credit, with some folks feeling like Hartman really deserved a much bigger piece of the Pee-wee empire he helped build. But here's what's so interesting. Even in the middle of this estrangement, that mutual respect was just undeniable. This quote is from an interview Phil did with Bob Costas, and it's such a nuanced take on Reubens. I mean, he doesn't shy away from how difficult their relationship was, but he makes a point to say he believes Reubens is a true genius. It just goes to show you this wasn't some simple case of two guys hating each other. It was way more painful than that.
And then there's the infamous Howard Stern interview. Oh boy. This is the one piece of evidence that still makes fans cringe. It all went down after Reubens' 1991 arrest, and a lot of people who heard it felt that Stern was just actively goading Hartman, pushing him to pile on his former friend at his absolute lowest moment. The things Hartman said were harsh, and for many, it pretty much confirmed that the rift was totally irreparable.
Okay, but let's just hit pause on all that personal turmoil for a second, because at the exact same time their friendship was falling apart, the world they created together was a masterpiece. It was this explosion of joy and chaotic creativity. The contrast is just staggering.
And this image right here just perfectly illustrates that paradox. Pee-wee's Playhouse was a riot of color and sound and just pure, unfiltered fun. It was a place where literally anything could happen, right? You had puppets and robots and genies all just hanging out. It was a safe space for weirdos, a total celebration of the unconventional, and it was born from this incredibly strained partnership. For decades, we all loved the Playhouse for its silliness and, the nostalgia. But lately, people are starting to look at it through a completely different and, frankly, a fascinating new lens. The world that Reubens and Hartman built is now being seriously studied for its cultural significance in a way I bet they never, ever imagined. That's right. Just this year, in 2024, Pee-wee's Playhouse was an actual topic of discussion at a scholarly conference. We're talking academics from all over the world getting together to analyze kids' media, and Pee-wee was on the agenda. How wild is that? And this was the actual title of the presentation. It wasn't just some passing mention. It was a deep dive into the show's Christmas special, straight up labeling it campy, queer, and iconic. This completely recasts the show. It's not just a fun kids program anymore. It's being seen as a culturally significant piece of art with a very specific vibe.
So what exactly is camp? Basically, it's an appreciation for things that are over the top, artificial, maybe even so bad they're good. It's a sensibility that finds real joy in exaggeration and irony, and it has these deep, deep roots in queer culture as a way to playfully mess with mainstream norms. And when you think about the Playhouse, the talking chair, the genie in a box, Pee-wee's tight gray suit, it is the absolute definition of camp. And the analysis of Pee-wee wasn't happening in some kind of vacuum. Look at the other topics from this conference. Scholars are talking about modern shows like Steven Universe and The Owl House, which are celebrated for their explicit LGBTQ+ representation. They're even analyzing queer coding in old Soviet-era cartoons. The fact that Pee-wee's Playhouse is now part of this totally legitimate ongoing conversation, It just shows you how ahead of its time it really was.
But this vibrant, celebrated legacy just makes the personal story all the more tragic. So let's go back to that central question. Because Phil Hartman's shocking and violent death in 1998 meant that any chance for a real face-to-face reconciliation was just gone. Forever.
And this is the gut punch. At the memorial service, which was held at the Groundlings, the very place their partnership began, Paul Reubens spoke. According to people who were there, he was utterly heartbroken. He reportedly took the blame for their fallout, expressing this profound, devastating regret that he had allowed such an important friendship to just disappear. It's just a heartbreaking final chapter to their story.
So, what do we do with all this? How do you hold these two conflicting truths at the same time? The private pain and the public joy are so deeply tangled up, you really can't understand one without the other.
This really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? On one side, you have the story of two friends torn apart by fame and money and ego, a story of estrangement and this deep, unspoken regret. And on the other side, you have what came out of it, pure creative genius, an iconic cultural touchstone, and now a celebrated, campy, queer legacy that keeps inspiring joy and even academic study. And that just leaves us with this final, lingering question. It's the central mystery not just of Pee-wee and Phil, but of so much great art, right? It's a testament to the strange, messy, and sometimes heartbreaking way creation works, where something so beautiful and lasting can be born from a place of profound conflict and sadness. And that, maybe, is the most complicated legacy of all.